Hi, today we are talking about adding and subtracting decimal numbers. Now, this is the beginning of decimals, so it's going to feel simple, and if you understand a few things about decimals, the rest will become a lot easier as we work more with them throughout the year. The first thing you need to understand is this little part right here. Sometimes when we're saying the decimal point, we like to say 5.5, but we need to start looking at it as these are tenths and these are hundredths in this place. So I'm going to get this right here. These are our tenths, which means that it's a fraction, tenths, and these are our hundredths. And so when we see this decimal point, then that gives us an idea of how we should think about the decimal. Name the place value of the 3 in each number. We have 23 and 4 tenths. And this 3, we look at our chart, it's in the ones place. Here we have 2 and 34 hundredths. So listen, for this, our 3 is in the tenths place. Here's another example, 3 being used in all sorts of situations, 32 and 4 tenths. And so when we see that 3, we know that it's in the tens column. And finally, 4 and 23. Now, 23 hundredths. In my class, I put a banish on you saying 4.23. That's used a lot that's the way it's commonly used, but for our class, I want you to understand that when you see a decimal point, the correct way to say it is 4 and 23 hundredths. And when we say this, because we have some examples with money, we know that what we're saying is 23 out of 100. Now, when we are adding our decimals, there is a certain thing that we need to remember. How do we treat zeros? Or how do we treat open spaces? When you see this number 12 and 5 tenths, we can say that it's 12 and 5 tenths, and we can say that it's 12 and 50 hundredths. They both have the same value. Adding a 0 to the right of a decimal does not affect its value. So we could say 12 and 5 tenths, 12 and 5 hundredths, 12 and 500 thousandths. We could keep going on and on. It will not affect its value. So knowing that, when we're adding our decimals, we line up the decimal, just like we line up our tens and our hundreds on this section. We line up those and the decimal. So we look at this as 3 and 75 hundredths, line up plus 12 and 5 tenths, and this is our little magical, we put our 0 there. It does not, it keeps the same value, plus 2 and 47 hundredths. And we add these all up. 5 plus 7 is 12. Carry the 1. 5 plus 4 is 9. Plus 1 is 10. Plus 7 is 17. Carry our 1. 2 plus 2 is 4. Plus 3 is 7. Plus 1 is 8. And 1 plus nothing is 1. and we keep our decimal lined up, so we put our decimal point. And our answer for this is 18 and 72 hundredths. Our next example is how to subtract. So we have 4 and 25 hundredths, and we are subtracting it from 2 and 5 tenths. But we can also add a 0 and do 2 and 50 hundredths. And now we subtract. 5 minus 0 is 5. 2 minus 5 we take and regroup. 12 minus 5 is 7. 3 minus 2 is 1. And we have a 1 and 75 hundredths. I'm going to pause now and we will begin the lesson practice here in a minute. I wish you well.